Prim, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Before I start, if you're comfortable, I really just want to do this presentation with you guys. So if you are comfortable, please have your videos on so we can interact together, but that's if you're comfortable. So I'm not going to force anybody. It's just so I can see you guys, so I know you're interacting with me, so that I'm not doing this alone. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, my assistant. Okay. Can you guys see? Just thumbs up. Okay. I also have my sisters that are going to be looking into the chart today. So if any one of you have any questions, Grace and Priv, please keep an eye on the questions for me. Thank you. So I'm going to start by having a discussion about the topic, do you? So when I was thinking about this topic, I thought about our generation right now, and I think there's a lot of social media influence that sort of like encourages people to, not encourages people, but I think there's a lot of influence on social media that can have an impact on your identity. So I thought to have a discussion about do you, to remind you that you don't need to be like anybody else, and you can always be the person that God has called you to be. So I'm just here to remind you that your identity is in Christ and you don't need to be like anybody else. So basically, do you and don't do them. So that is the ethos really behind my theme today. So I'm also going to focus on career and personal development, and basically share my journey. Are you still with me? Yeah? Okay. So who am I? So I am a woman that wears so many hats. I'm a qualified social worker. First of all, I am Primrose from Bitsai Marunda. My name has changed. I'm a qualified social worker. I am a landlord, and I'm also a makeup artist. So I wear this, different hats. So I am a career woman. And today I'm going to share with you guys about my journey, because I think sometimes it's so easy for me to say, I'm a landlord, I'm a social worker, I'm a makeup artist, and people just think, I just got here just like this. I'm just here to remind you that it didn't start like this, and that everybody's journey is different. So with that in mind, I will start talking about realistic goals. So when I was growing up, I wanted to become an astronaut. It was my goal to be the first Zimbabwean woman to go to space and go to the moon. That was my, that was my dream. But then I started doing my GCSEs and I realized that science was just not, I just wasn't good in science. I'm saying this because I don't know what your goals are, but I'm just here to sort of like just, share that it's important to make sure that you have realistic goals. So for me, my sisters, they were, they really hyped me up. Yeah, Prim, you can do it. But it just wasn't a real, a realistic goal for me to become an astronaut. So I chose another avenue instead. And then I started social work. So I'm just going to talk to you guys about my social work journey and just sort of like linking with my realistic journey. So when I was doing my GCSEs, I chose different subjects. I studied English language, business, and economics. But then at the time, I just didn't realize what I wanted to do, and I really struggled with that. And as a result of that, when I went to do my social work interview the first time, I failed my social work interview because I just didn't know, what I was doing. So when I failed my social work interview, it really, I was so disappointed because I had prayed and I just felt like my world has just come like crumbling down basically. And during that social work journey, I was also doing my driving test and I failed miserably. I think I shared, people that have heard my story, I think you guys know that I failed my driving test about, I think, 5 times. I'm sharing this story just to say your journey can include so many trials, but then it's not the end of the road. And that's what I'm basically trying to say, that you can go through trials and tribulations, but then it doesn't mean that it's the end of life. It doesn't mean that, you know, it is the end of your dreams and your career, because you can always bounce back. Whilst we're having this discussion, do I have any people studying their GCSEs in here today? Anybody? No? Okay. The only reason why I was saying this, I just wanted to encourage the young people to basically set realistic targets, you know, set realistic goals for yourself. And I want you guys to choose your careers wisely, because you could end up like me, you know, that I just didn't know at the time, you know, which route I was going to go down, and it led to series of, you know, trials and tribulations. But again, I'm just here to encourage you guys that you can still do it. You know, let me see what else is next. Okay, so the next thing about me is I am, as I already said, I'm a property investor. So I'm a landlord, and I have a picture of my property on there. I'm also a makeup artist, and I work alongside my sister Grace, and we have a company called Prim Beauty. It is a company that we birthed in 2014. So we specialize in all things bridal. That's what I've just put on here. And also, I'm an ambassador for a company called Sourced in Africa. So we sell bags. So please follow us on social media. So just to go back on disappointment and failures, I'm sort of reminded of the story of Joseph in the Bible. He was a young person like us. You know, he faced so many trials, but he didn't give up, you know. Today, I just want to say to you guys, whatever you do, don't give up, even though it may look like you're just not getting anywhere. You can go through so many diversions in life, but I just want to remind you guys that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Look at me. You know, if somebody say to me in 2014, when I filled my interview, Prim, you're going to be a social worker. Prim, you're going to be a landlord. You're going to be a makeup artist. You know, you're going to be a practicing educator in your career of social work. At that time, it wouldn't have made any sense to me, because I just felt that, you know, I had just hit the end of the road. So I'm just here to remind you guys that you can go through diversions in life, but then it just doesn't mean it is the end of the world. So that's just pretty much about my journey to success as well. In terms of diversifying your income, I think it's important as young people to invest and just think, what is it that you're good at? So, for example, my sister and I, we realized that we're very good at makeup, and we thought, well, why don't we make money out of this? People that have joined this session today, I don't know what you're good at, but I just want you to take that leap of faith and go for it, you know, because you never know who is going to, you know, see what you've posted. Social media is such a powerful tool, and you can use it really wisely to advertise yourself as well. So I think it's really important as young people that we just learn to diversify and really invest in yourself, and invest in attending seminars such as this. So thank you for, you know, for coming today, because you're listening to me. I've always dreamt about this, you know, doing a talk and like sharing my journey. And I'm so grateful to God that I've finally been given an opportunity to sort of, you know, just share my journey with you guys, I have to be honest, it is not easy. You know, it is not a walk in the park. Success, you have to work really hard. You know, I'll give you a perfect example. Monday to Friday, I'm a social worker. On weekends, I'm a makeup artist. In between those times, I'm a landlord. My tenants, you know, they need things. I have to work hard, you know, and so you just have to work really hard because God has given us, you know, the resources that are available that we can use. So some of these resources could be your mentors and, you know, listening to your youth leaders, Francis Chenge, you know, Mr. Chimbisi. These people are here to equip you, but if you don't use them, I don't know what you're gonna do. You know, so I think it's so important. For me, I've been so privileged that I've had such a supportive family and supportive role models. So I think as young people, or now that I'm in my mid-20s, middle-aged, it's also just important to just set realistic targets, you guys. I can't emphasize this enough. I know that sometimes I'm going in and out of this presentation, but I'm just going to allow God to just speak through me. Set yourself realistic targets. I'll give you a perfect example. The last time when I did a talk in Manchester, I spoke about, you know, by the end of the year, you know, we prayed about it. I said, we want to, you know, we want to have another property. And by God's grace, my husband and I were able to purchase a property following the talk that we did. You know, we sort of set ourselves realistic targets. And when you set targets, you know, also save money. You know, there's so many things that you can sacrifice. But yes, you know, live your life. But then at the same time, it's also important that you save, that you save money. Trying to think what else have I missed. And in terms of the different avenues that you can take, I know this is a bit controversial, but other people, university is great for them. So for me, university worked out really well. But there's also other avenues for success. So I know there are internships, you know, that you can use. There's apprenticeships. There's just different avenues of success. So don't tie yourself just to one thing. So like the example that I gave of being an astronaut, you know, if I just tie down myself, even though I wasn't good in science, I don't know where I will be today. You know, so I think that is basically me in a nutshell. I am very passionate about helping young people. So at the moment in time, I'm supporting social work students on their placement. I'm supporting people that going for their social work interviews. So if you need any support, even like interview tips, reach out to people. You know, you never know who's going to be you know, around the corner that can help you. Even on this platform today, there's so many different talents. You know, let's network. It's important to surround yourself with people that are doing, you know, what you want to do. So for me, I had my mentor, Minister Rose Munduru. She's a social worker as well. So I had somebody that I had to look, you know, to look up to in terms of social work. But in terms of astronaut, there's nobody that I know that, you know, that does that. In terms of property investments, you know, watching YouTube, you know, attending seminars for property and asking for help. In terms of makeup, you know, watching YouTube videos, going to makeup classes. I don't think that God is gonna come and spoon feed. I'm sorry to say, I don't think it's gonna come down and spoon feed things to us. You know, we have to be realistic, really. So going back again to my theme, do you, even though everybody is doing property, everybody is doing makeup, what sets you apart? What is your unique selling point? You know, I think it's important that we try to distinguish that as well. You know, what is it that sets you apart from everybody else? I was talking to my sister, and she gave an analogy of when you go to Lidl, there's different breads, you know, but then the bread next to the other bread is not competing, you know, with anybody. So if you're good at what you do and you have invested in yourself, people will come to you, opportunities will arise, and be persistent, you know, as well. Um, Again, I'm just going to go back to the story of Joseph, and all the things that, you know, that happened in his life, but he didn't give up. He continued dreaming, you know, he continued to trust in God. And in the end, you know, we read about him. He became the famous prime minister. I say this because he was just a young person like us. Pray for guidance, guys, as well. It's so important. I really just enjoyed talking to you guys. It's a bit hard talking about yourself, isn't it? But I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to know about me. I hope this has been helpful. And again, I'm not saying this in any way to sort of like show off my achievements. I'm saying this to encourage you guys that I have experienced trials, I have experienced failures, I have experienced disappointments in my life, but I didn't allow that to stop me. I just continued to trust in God, and I continued to persevere in my faith. And basically, it's also important that you also have fun as a young person and people in Christ. So I suppose my role models, I'm just going to talk about, I think I've already touched on this. Anyway, so these are the people that inspire me. So I've still got my work colleagues on there. That was at our wedding, and my sisters and my husband, everybody, you know, they just really are God sent. And I think the final thing I just want to say is have fun, enjoy life, you know, and so invest, work hard, play hard. You know, I think there's a saying that goes like that. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I hope you managed to grasp that, guys.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time. From your busy schedule, you're wearing so many hats there. Thank you for that. And to your technician in the background, we want to thank him as well. He's
Oh
doing
yeah.
a great job. I'll leave this. Chenge. If you unmute yourself, Sister Chenge, and give us your question, please.
Hi, Prim. That was really inspirational. I've got a question. You know, you said you managed to save while you were in uni.
Mm-hmm.
How did you manage to save? You know, you've got so many expenses in uni. You need to go out, but how did you manage to save while in uni? And also regarding GSC is, you know, did you have any time where you failed, and how did you pick yourself up as well?
Yeah.
And the third one, so that you can just answer all of them. The third one is when you were trying to find a course in the university, did you have a time where your parents were telling you to start this and you wanted this, and how did you overcome it if such thing happened?
I'll try to remember those questions in that order. So for me, I was lucky enough that the course that I studied at uni was based in Leeds. So I stayed at home. That's how I was able to save, you know, money for the deposit for the property. When you do social work, you have a social work bursary. So I was able to save, you know, part of that money, and I was also working like crazy. Even though my parents could afford for us, I had a goal in mind, and I knew that I wanted to have a property by the time I was 23 years old. That was the goal for me. So I worked, hard, saved money, and I wasn't paying rent at home. So I suppose that was the difference between me and, I suppose, other students, that I was lucky enough to stay at home. I didn't go to student accommodation. Um, so with that in mind, I was able to then save the money that was needed to purchase a property. The second question you asked me around GCSE, yes, I did fail, actually, to be honest with you. The first time I wrote my GCSE maths, I got a D. And I remember going to Lidl with my dad, crying. I was like, Dad, like, it was like, oh no, my uncle, everything's gonna be fine, and to know that my parents supported me, even though I'd, in my view, well, I'd failed, I'd gotten a D in maths, and I just felt like, what's mom and dad going to do? But they were so supportive, and they connected me with another lady that taught maths in Leeds. So I did extra lessons. But to know that my parents supported me, even in that small failure, it meant the world to me. So I think if there are any parents on this platform, it's important to support your children, even though, yes, they failed, but it's not the end of the world. They can always rise up again. So that was sort of my experience. And then in terms of social work, it was my mom's idea to do social work. And I think my sister's on the chat as well. She's also a social worker. Hi, Grace. So because by the time I'd failed so when you go to uni, I would say when you do your university applications, you apply to 5 universities. So all the universities that I applied to, I failed in every single one of them. All 5 of them rejected me. I went through what's it called now? Clearing. I still failed again through clearing. And I was like to my mom, I want to take gap year. My mom was like, no child of mine is going to take gap year. You're going to find another course. And my mom found the course for me. But then I was obedient in that, and I think that's something that is so important as children, to be obedient and to listen, because I feel like my mom could see what was ahead. And then in my mind, all I could see was space and NASA. That's what was in my mind. I'm seeing, this first Zimbabwean woman, I'm seeing the titles, I'm seeing everything, but my mom is seeing reality. So my mom connected me with other social workers that she worked with at the hospital. And I think it was sometimes about who Sis Jenge, and again, that connection with other people, because by the time I qualified as a social worker, the person that my mom had linked me with prior to the interview that I then passed, I work with her now, and it's just so amazing how network is so important.
If you unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi, Prim. Thank you for telling us about your life and everything. You mentioned that you have a business, you've built a brand called Primrose Beauty, which is absolutely amazing. And I would imagine by now you're getting clients left, right, and center. But what kind of advice can you give to someone that's starting? Because it's so easy to start, but remaining consistent and building a brand that that people will know about and that people can trust is a different thing. I don't know what kind of tips that you could give us on building a brand and sustaining it. Thank you.
I think it's about relevance and seeing what is trending, within that time, and trying to stay on top of like everything that's sort of like happening. Sometimes it can be discouraging. You will have your discouraging moments, but I think you just have to continue to continue going for it, really. So I think it goes back to what I talked about, Priv, around, persistence, just continue working hard, investing in yourself and networking and praying for guidance as well, and then just trusting and just praying for God to open opportunities. I think how you can sustain your brand is about networking again, and finding something you're passionate about. So for us, for me and Grace, we're very passionate about makeup. We cannot, do, for example, we can't do hair. So we're not going to try and focus on something else that we're not able to do. It's about staying in your lane, I think, and building that brand, but staying in your lane in the initial stages, and then asking for help from other people to share your work. Like I said, again, social media is such a powerful tool at the moment. You can ask people to share your content, and stay professional as well. There's no point to build a brand and not be professional, and not respond to your clients. I think you just need to remain passionate about your brand and stay true to yourself, and stay, persist, and just continue working hard on that. Priv.
Hi, Primi. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. So I just have a question regarding property investment. So you mentioned how you went to a speaking arrangement last year and you were able to buy a house this year. In regards to it being COVID, do you have any saving techniques that us young people can use? I know some of us, we still live at home and we don't pay rent, but we still find it hard to save. So is there anything that you can suggest that we can do in the meantime? And also, how did you manage to do with your savings, and then also being consistent with paying your tithes? Is there any tips that you can give young people so that we can grow in that department, please?
So that's a really good question, Grace. Tithe is so important. I remember sharing a testimony in church that whenever I didn't pay my tithe, I just felt like my finances would just get swept away, like a wave would just come and just just take my money. So I think you have to have the discipline, and just to understand why paying a tithe is so important. In terms of saving, we are a generation that can just get so easily influenced and by fashion, by the latest styles. And sometimes it's so easy to fall into the trap of, what's everybody, I don't know, Jordans. I think Chris should know about this. So I think it's just important to set a target, a realistic saving target, I suppose. Is it going to be £50 a month that you're going to be putting aside, or is it going to be 100? Realistically, what can you afford to save? Okay, that's what I did. I had to think, what is realistic for me to save? So when I was in university, it was realistic for me to save, I don't know, £100, for example, a month. But then as I got into my career of social work, that increased, with my salary as well. So I think just try to not buy too many things, and just, I think when I did the last talk at Manchester Glory Zone, I spoke about how I really wanted to have the latest Brazilian wigs that everybody had. But my goal was, I need to have a house. So I'm going to sacrifice just for 6 months, or I'm going to sacrifice just for 2 months so I can do this. I'm not saying that don't have fun, because having fun is important as young people, as any age, it's important to have fun. But I think just sacrifice and discipline yourself for a short time and you will reap the rewards. In terms of COVID, it's really been a difficult time, for everyone. It's been a really, really difficult time. But at the same time, it's also opened up so many different opportunities, because I understand, people build businesses during this pandemic, as well. So I think it's just about discipline, grace, and asking for help and attending. I know there's people that do, financial like literacy, attend those seminars as well. And there's so many different avenues of investments, but I'm not going to get into them because my husband knows them better than me. I know there's something called Bitcoin, and I know there's something called, I don't know, what's it called, Patrick? There's like different like stocks exchange. But I think this is some of the other things that you can educate yourself on as way of like saving money, but I don't know them. But I think Mr. Chimbisa will know better than me on this one as well. So yeah.
Yes, thanks, Prim, for that inspiring talk. What are your, is it enough to just tweet hashtag Black Lives Matter? What are your thoughts? What can young people do, especially in this competitive environment? And just maybe a quick comment about equality and diversity. Thank you.
Equality and equality, and so, okay, I will be as real as I can be. Okay, in my line of social work, it is a very competitive field, but then there's so many opportunities that can be presented to us, but I think sometimes fear comes in the way, and we then don't take those opportunities, So I think in terms of equality and if things are presented to you, be the champion of, of equality and diversity within your workplace, and educate people about that. I personally, I haven't, because my manager's been so supportive in my line of work. I'm progressing in my career at the moment. I'll be doing my senior progression very soon in social work, but I know that I have to stand up for other people in this field and be their voice. So I think if you've been given a platform, I think use it. But can I get some clarification, Mr. Chimbisi, on your question? Is it gone?
Yeah, I'm still here. No, I just wanted your I think you've covered enough just to inspire us to take advantage of opportunities that are presented our way. So you have answered it for me satisfactorily.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I've got a question. You've talked a lot about failure, hurdles that come, in the journey of life. How do you manage your faith through failure?
My dad is a pastor. I'm joking. How do I manage? I think it's hard, and we have to be realistic about this, guys. As Christians, we will experience, failures, definitely. But I think what encourages me, I suppose I read about the great men of faith, and I try to then put things into context of what is sort of like happening in the now. Okay, so recently, we were watching about the life of Lewis Hamilton, my husband and I, and we were learning about, how he was the first Black person to get into, he was the first person, to get into Formula One, but then just watching his journey and the struggles that he faced, and to see him come at the top, I can sort of like just comparing, the great men of faith, and then looking into our reality right now of who I can sort of like look up to and see, what they've been through, but still see them, rising. It really encourages me. And I think praying for God just to help you in those moments, as well is really helpful. Just going to God and just saying, you know, God, I don't know where to go. I feel like I've just hit rock bottom here. You know, what else can I do? And I genuinely believe that God will speak to us in those moments, and that can be through you know, mentors, that can be through I don't know, you know, opportunities. But it is hard. I have to be honest, it's not easy going through disappointments, because you just feel like everyone else around me is achieving things, but why me, you know? But I think I'm a firm believer that when the time is right, you know, everything will fall into place. um you know, so I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll give the final question to Priv. If you unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. Really quickly, Primrose, in your talk, you've mentioned a lot about mentors. For someone that doesn't have one, do I go looking for a mentor? Does the mentor find me? Do I pay for a mentor? How does it work?
Whoa, privilege. That's a very interesting question. I think a mentor can be anyone that you look up to. So, for example, for me, it's been the women in my family, for example. So it can either be, you know, even your sisters, it can either be your friends that you trust. I don't think you necessarily have to pay for them, you know, but by all means, you can have a life coach if you want to go down that route. There's sort of like, you know, those avenues. But in terms of, what was your question again? I forgot.
I was asking, like, how can one find a mentor? Do you just go looking for one, or does the mentor find you? And do we need to pay for one? So you've already said we don't necessarily have to pay, and
Yeah.
you've said that, you know, a mentor could be anyone. But do you think that they should have some form of qualification behind them in terms of they should know, let's say, like you said, you're the mentor in social work who was a social worker. Like, would I just go as a theologian and find someone who knows nothing about religious studies to be my mentor?
Well, yeah, I think it goes back to being realistic. I think you have to look. So find out what you're passionate about, and find out who is out there that sort of like does what you want to do. So I think the ownership goes back to you as an individual to maybe find someone that sort of like does the thing that you want to do. So for example, for me, this is I think my second speaking engagement. I've been to Mr. Chimbese because I know that he does, you know, this kind of things. So for me, I look up to him in terms of, you know, seminars as a mentor, because I know, but like Prim, I think of this thing, you know, you need to do this better, you need to do this, because I've seen, you know, the work that he has done. So I think look for them and look for somebody who is in the same field as you are, or in the same field as you are interested in.